So if you ever wondered about reloading and whether or not it's for you, I really enjoy reloading. For me, it's a hobby, a fun pastime, and I really enjoy shooting, so I reload a lot. So this is what I do. I decided reloading might make the hobby a little bit cheaper, so that's kind of why I got into it originally, but now I enjoy it for other reasons. I enjoy having control over my ammunition, different loads, what they're going to do in my rifles and in my pistols. Right now what I'm reloading is some 9mm. I'm going to show you how I do that. The 9mm is actually for my wife's pistol, and generally speaking, pistol ammunition, you're not going to save a lot of money by reloading pistol ammunition. You can buy it really, really cheap, and you can't reload it for, well, unless you do a lot. I mean, we're talking like several hundred rounds in a weekend. So unless you're doing that much reloading, then you're not really going to save a whole lot of money by reloading your pistol ammunition just because you can buy it so cheap. The reason why I do reload this particular ammunition is because my wife does not like the recoil of the 9mm. Now some of you may say, yeah, okay, well a 9mm doesn't really kick that hard, but you gotta remember, this is my wife we're talking about. If she says, I don't like that recoil, then I'm going to try and fix it. So, what I do is, I take the 9mm cartridge and I actually load it with 380 bullets. The reason is, for the most part, it's very difficult to find 9mm bullets that are very lightweight. These are 100 grains, and I do have some 9mm bullets. These are 115 grains. Now, 100 grains versus 115 grains, yes, there is a big difference there, trust me. Okay, it may not seem like it, but there's a big difference. So, the measurements are the same for the 9mm and the 380 bullet. Okay, 0.356 inches wide, 0.356 inches wide. Same thing. Okay, it's just that a 9mm bullet is usually much heavier, a little bit longer, so that's what we do. I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how I do this step by step, and we'll just kind of take it from there. First thing you want to do, you want to get your dies out. You need to get a set of dies for the round that you're doing. So these are dies for 9mm Luger. These are RCBS dies. I don't endorse. Let's see, how should I word this? RCBS does not endorse me. I just use some of their products. My press is RCBS. These dies are RCBS. I have other dies that are Hornady. I've got dies that are Lee. I just kind of use whatever. So we're gonna go through this. You take your empty cartridge, and you want to make sure these are good and cleaned. But I always knock out the primer before I clean my shells. I just like how it'll clean out the primer pocket. So you can do whatever you want. This is what I do. We'll go ahead and get started. So you stick the shell in the holder, and you run it into the die. That'll size it. And sorry, my wife interrupts a little bit. She's curious as to what I'm doing. So anyway, so you take your 9mm and you run it in, you size it. You don't have to knock out the primer before, because most of your sizing dies have a little peg that will knock the primer out for you. And then you just scrape the carbon and junk out of there with maybe a really small screwdriver, or they actually do make an actual tool to do that for you. So we're going to go ahead and do all of these. Oh, that one's a little stiff. And every now and then you will get some stiff ones. I should also mention that I am using carbide dies, a carbide sizing die. So case lube is not required. It's nice, it's helpful, I'm sure, but I have never used case lube with carbide dies. So if you have just the regular steel, I guess, not carbide dies, then you do need case lube. You got to get some lube on these cases and make sure they're able to slide in and out nice and easy. And then after you're done reloading, of course, you need to clean that lube off. So using the carbide dies, you don't have to clean the lube off. You don't have to put the lube on. It just works out better for me. So now I've got them all sized. Oops, drop it. Got them all sized. They're all to the correct diameter. The reason is when you shoot these, the case will actually, as the gun fires, the case will expand with the expansion of the gases and everything. It's a small explosion. So this is going to expand, and you need to resize it back down to the diameter it's supposed to be. So we've gone through, we've done all that. The next thing we need to do is trim these to the correct length, because along with the expansion, they're also going to extend, not that much, not as much as I'm showing, but they do extend, they will grow. So what I usually do, oh sure, now I can't find my, I've got a set of calipers that I use to measure with. Let me find those. They're not far. Okay. So what I usually do is I'll go through the cartridges. Speaking and we don't get along very well. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to find the one that is the shortest out of all of them, and I'm going to trim them all to that same short length. These are actually all almost the same. Oh, okay, that one is much shorter. That is 0.740 inches. So I'm going to set that one off to the side because that's the shortest one. All the others are 0.75. How do you read this? Yeah, 0.75. All the rest are 0.75. This one's 0.74. So we are going to trim to this length, and I'll show you how I set up my trimmer. I have a Hornady trimmer. It's like a little lathe. And what you do, you got to take the shell holder that you use in the press. And for this particular trimmer, I have found that only the Hornady shell holders will work in this trimmer, which isn't a big deal for me because, I mean, you got to buy shell holders anyways, so you might as well just buy the kind that you need for the trimmer, and it'll work in the press and everything else, and everything's good. I have tried some of the other shell holders, like the RCBS and Lee. They don't work on the Hornady case trimmer. So the way you set this up, you got your shell, and you stick it in there into the shell holder, lock it down, and then there's a thumb screw here. Not really a thumb screw, it's more like a wing nut, I guess. Anyways, the actual trimmer part with the blades on it is up here. You want to run that all the way in, and then you take and shove your case against that. Now, I don't know if this is actually the way that Hornady has designed this to be set up, but this is the way I set it up. So hold that in, press that against it, make sure they're together. You don't want to be pushing it this way. You want it all the way to the rear. If you push it this way and then lock it down, then you're going to be trimming your cases way too short, and that's not a good thing. So make sure that your cutter portion is all the way in, and then push the case up to meet it and lock it down nice and tight. And then you can go through and start trimming your cases. So I'm going to start with this one, just make sure that the end of that's nice and cleaned up. I did cut it a little bit. I don't know if you can see it in the video or not. It did cut it a little bit, just kind of smooth that edge up. And then you take a deburring tool such as this one. There's different styles. This is the one that came with my RCBS reloading press. This is one made by Lyman. This one is really nice. Crack that open, and inside of it are the tools that I told you about for cleaning out the primer pocket. Those will also remove a military crimp if you need to. We're not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to put those back in there. And I'm going to put that tool away. Anyway, so you take your deburring tool and you're just going to kind of, you run that on the inside and then you run that side on the outside of the case. Boy, that's a good thunderclap. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but we got some rain going on here, and good day to stay inside and reload. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the rest of these up. Deburr, because when you trim that down to length, you're gonna have a burr around that edge. Just clean that up. Oop, I'm gonna lose that. Now when you do this, you're gonna have brass shavings everywhere. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. You can clean it up later with a vacuum or whatever. And this is usually the way you do it. You'll start with, rather than reload one case completely and then move on to the next case and reload that completely, you're going to do every case through all the steps before you move on to the next step. So we sized all the cases, now we're trimming all the cases. It's just faster that way to get them all done. I'm using a single stage press, not a progressive press, so it's going to go slower anyways. You don't need to be doing things that's going to make it go really slow. Okay, so we've sized, we've trimmed to length. Now what we need to do is we need to expand the case mouth. We're going to kind of bell that open a little bit. It's kind of counterintuitive because we just got that down to the size we want it. Now we're going to open it up again. It's, why? We're opening it up so that it will accept the new bullet easily, readily. So we have a different die for that. Pull that one out, put them away. And if you look inside there's a little, the technical term is doohickey. Alright, there's a little doohickey in there, and that's going to open up that case mouth so it'll take the new bullet. And this particular die, you want to get it set up, get it where it needs to be. I've already got mine set up. I know that if I screw it into where it stops, I'm good. And that's where it needs to be. I'm going to take my shell holder off of the trimmer. Drop it on the floor. That's a good spot for it. I always drop all my shell holders on the floor before I put them in the press. It's good for them. So, at this point, you can also put the primers in, which I'm going to do. I'm going to do it all in one step. I'm going to put the primer in, and I'm going to expand the case mouth all at once. My press has a little. This little guy goes in there, and he's going to hold the primer. You put the primer in there, and then you put your case in, set the primer, expand the case mouth, all that good stuff, all in one go. Just got to find my primers. I have the Winchester small pistol primers, which is what you want. Oops, sent them all flying. That's a good thing to do. Anyways, you want the small pistol primers for the 9mm. And it's always good to have a little tray to put them on so they don't get lost. And we'll just pick up the rest of these, put them back in. Get back in there. Okay. Put those away. Alright. So, I've got my little primers. Cute little guys. Put them in the press, in the little primer holder. And we take our cartridge. We want to run the ram up a little bit because we're not going to be able to get it in the shell holder if it's down with that primer holder in there. So we run the ram up just a little bit, put the case in, and you can do one of two ways. You can either put the primer in now, or you can expand the case mouth, put the primer in later. We'll do it that way. We'll expand the case mouth, and then put the primer in. Now, putting the primer in, you want to make sure that the primer is flush with the end of the case. I usually take and run my finger over it and just make sure it's flush. You're not going to get it right your very first try. No one's perfect, so don't worry about it. Just kind of play with it. If you set one too deep, well, just don't set one too deep. It's a lot easier to fix it if you don't have it deep enough. Then you can just, press it a little bit more and fix it. So just go easy at first until you get the feel of, when it's about there. So we expand, and I've done this a lot, so I pretty well know, like right there, that feels like that's set, and yeah, we're good. If you do set one too deep, honestly, I don't know what to tell you. Stick it in the gun, see if it fires. If not, throw that cartridge away, get rid of it. You don't want to mess with that. Do not ever try and push a primer that has not been spent already. Do not try and push that primer back out of the case. Reason being, you could accidentally set it off and have a really bad day. So let's get all these set up here. Alright, so they're all primed, case mouth is expanded, they're trimmed to length, they've been sized, all the stuff is good to go. The only thing left to do is put powder in and a bullet, and you're done. For powder, take your pick. Go out and find some reloading manuals that tell you how much to use. I've actually got where is he? I have an RCBS. No, yeah, I've got an Osler book by RCBS. It came with my press, so you crack that open, and there's lots of good information on reloading. So let's see if I can find the 375 Luger. I'm not sure. I don't think this is all rifle. Maybe it is. Oh, here we go. Pistol ammo's in the back. So there's 45, 44, 41. There's a 40. All different calibers. 45-70 government. I think we passed something here. 458 SOCOM. 38 special. Where's the 9mm? Oh, here we go. No, wait. 357 SIG. 357 SIG 9mm. I don't know what it's talking about. Here we go. 9mm Luger. So we have the 115 grain. There's a 380 auto with a 115 grain. So we're not even near where we need to be here. Anyways, here's your reloading information. What it looks like. Different powders here. Good stuff. This is your powder measurement. This is in grains, so we measure our powder by weight. I have special ammunition that I've been loading up. It's not actually in this Nosler book, but I did find some actual information on what I'm loading, and I'm loading within those specs. There's a minimum charge weight and then a maximum charge weight. You need to stay under that maximum charge weight. If you go over, you can damage your gun, you can damage yourself, you could kill yourself. It's not a good thing. So we just want to make sure that we're being safe. So I'm going to use the Cfe Pistol Powder. This is made by Hodgdon. It's good stuff. CFE stands for Copper Fouling Eraser. I like this powder because it makes cleaning the gun later very easy. I think this powder maybe burns a little bit dirtier, so your gun will get dirtier, but it cleans easier, so I don't know, it kind of washes out. I like this powder. I'm going to use this powder, and it's going to work just fine. So, at this point, I'm not going to tell you how much powder I'm using. I'm going to make you go look it up for yourself, because I don't want to tell you, do it like this, and then someone have a problem and come back on me saying, hey, you told me to do it like this, and then bad things happen, so it's your fault. Okay, it's not my fault. You should have looked up the information yourself. So I'm not going to tell you how much I'm putting in. Alright, so here's my powder in my little cup, and we're going to take that, we're going to dump it into the cartridge, but the correct way to do that is to use a funnel. I've got a funnel right here. So stick that over the cartridge, dump the powder in, give it a tap, make sure it all got in there. Like I said, I'm not telling you how much powder I put in there, but it's not much. It's not a lot of powder at all. Okay. Now, here's the part where it gets finicky. We put that in there without the bullet to start with. Okay. And we've got our die. It's in, but it's not all the way in. And I'll show you why. First I'll tell you why. Inside this die, in the body of the die, there's a part in there that will crimp that case mouth down around the bullet so that the bullet can't just fall out. So what you want to do is you want to put your case up in there, run the ram all the way up, and then you're going to bring the die down. I'm going to move my collar back just a little bit here, locking collar. Run the die down until you just feel that there's a little lip inside that die. You run that down. Oh, right there. You run it down until you just feel that lip catch the case. It'll get snug. And you don't force it. Okay, when it gets snug, you're there. All right, and then back it off at least a quarter turn. I usually go like a half a turn. And then run that locking collar down. Make sure you hold the die so it doesn't turn. Run your locking collar down and just snug it up by hand. You're not going wild with it, so hand tight is fine. Then the top part of this die is what puts the bullet in at the right depth. So we take our cartridge. Where'd my bullets go? I put them away. Silly me. Put things away. That's ridiculous. Alright, so we take our bullets. These are itty bitty little bullets. Okay, we're looking for low recoil. As little recoil as possible. So I actually went with a minimum charge weight according to what my data viewer said. So we're going to run that up. Now I'm not even touching the bullet seater, the thing that seats the bullet in the case. So I ran that all the way up. Now I'm going to run this in until I feel it touch the bullet. Come on, get there. Okay, it's there. Alright, and then we're going to run it in some more. And what we do is we're going to keep pushing that bullet further and further in. We're going to measure it every time and see how deep we've got it. And once again, I'm not going to tell you how far to seat your bullet. I'm going to make you look it up for yourself. Because I don't want any liability from this. So I'm not going to tell you how far in I've got that bullet. I also do not remember how far that bullet needs to go in, so I'm going to look it up. And yes, I'm looking up this information, and so theoretically I could tell you what I'm looking up because you're going to find it anyways, but I'm not gonna, because I'm mean like that. And this data is semi-confusing, so You know what? I'm trying to remember. When I did this last time, because these are 380 bullets. Oh man, how did I do that? I took the measurement for if I was actually reloading a 380, the measurement for the maximum cartridge length or the maximum case length, and then I took the measurement of the maximum case length for a 380, and I compared those, and then I took the seating depth for a 380, and I compared that, and it was confusing. Oh man, how did I do that? Well, anyways, we're gonna wing it for right now, just to give you the idea. And if I need to, I will unload this later, redo it. But right now, I'm just showing you the process of reloading. So we're just gonna make it look real good for the camera here. Anyway, so you see how that works. You give it a little turn up here, you run it in, and then you pull it out. You measure it, and you get to where you've got the measurement down where you want it. That's not no. Mm-mm. You keep going, run it in, push it down, push it into the case a little more, measure. And actually, now that I think about it, I do remember what that seating depth was, but I'm not going to tell you what it was because I'm just not a nice guy. And of course, I just dropped my dial calipers, and now they're not reading properly. Don't drop your dial calipers, it's not a good thing. Get these set back up. Okay, these are cheap calipers. Yeah, I'm just going to re-zero that. These are cheap calipers. Buy you a good set. These kind of suck, and they're not much fun to work with at all. A little bit more. Okay, so we got it where we want it. So that's basically what we're going to look like. But now we need to crimp the end of that case mouth around the bullet so it'll stay in there. And to do that, we take and we back the bullet seating portion of the die out quite a ways because we don't want it to touch at all. We run that cartridge or the round back up into the die. We take the die down to where we can feel it touch the case mouth, and I want that pretty snug, not tight. I mean, you're not going to reef on this, but you want it snug. Pull it back out, and you're going to bring this down. I usually do about a quarter of a turn to crimp. Okay, and then you run it back in there, and as it runs in, there's the little portion of the case inside, and it's going to take and crimp the end of that case mouth around that bullet so it holds it good and tight. And there it is. That's one round done, ready to go. We can go shooting now with very little recoil. Now, if you were going to be doing a lot of this, you're not going to do that whole process for every single bullet. So what I've done, I've got it to where it crimps at the right spot, okay? I'm going to lock my collar, the little locking collar down, and I'm going to run the bullet seating portion of the die in until I feel it touch the bullet. And then you would lock that down. So now every single round, so if we were to pretend that's got powder in it, right? Take that, put the bullet on there, and then run it in, and it will set your bullet to the right depth, and it will crimp the cartridge all in one fell swoop. So that's how I do it. That's how I do my reloading process. No, it's not the fastest. Yes, you're going to spend some time, but at the end of the day, you're going to get exactly what you want, which in this case is a very low recoil bullet for 9mm that will not cost you an arm and a leg. And I've shot these. I know they work well. we've had fun with them. So, anyways, if you have any questions or comments, of course, leave them in the comment section below. Hit like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Let me know, and we will keep these videos coming. Until then, take care.